Potter is better than Lord of the Rings. Explaining why would take way too much detail for this one video, so I suppose this is going to be a thing that's spread out against several videos, an entire video series, if you will. But the thing that really gets me, the thing that I noticed immediately upon reading Lord of the Rings again, something that really needs to be brought up is that, like, wow, Gandalf is kind of a terrible wizard compared to even the below average characters in Harry Potter. I guess Harry Potter must like really, really have this crazy magic curriculum because they can do more stuff. They have more versatility to their spells. They don't get tired. Like Gandalf explicitly says that like, oh, I can't burn the snow in front of me. That takes too much magic. Like, huh? Like it's snow. Like you can't conjure a flame. It's it's crazy. Just comparing the massive power gaps between the students of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and Middle Earth. You know, like the difference is astounding. But what's also astounding to me is just how big of a gap there is between Gandalf and Albus Dumbledore. Now, like, there have been a lot of statements from plebs suggesting that Albus Dumbledore is ripped off from Gandalf the Grey. But in actuality, both are based off the Arthurian classic character Merlin, and it is a character archetype. You know, it is a fantasy archetype, right? You know, Tolkien did not invent fantasy. You need to get that idea out of your skull. So anyway, both of the characters are heavily influenced by Merlin, you know, the advisor to King Arthur himself, right? Both these characters have like very similar roots, very similar developments, very similar roles in the plot, but it couldn't be more apparent that Dumbledore is far more competent, far more capable, far more willing to go to extreme lengths to preserve peace in the magical society, to the point where like nothing really all that bad happens, right? Like at the end of Harry Potter, like yeah, they have like what, like a year-long period of like where everything goes downhill, but like they beat Voldemort and then it's all over, right? You know, as opposed to like the multi-year long, just never-ending, just crazy nonsense that happens in Lord of the Ring that Gandalf is completely powerless to stop, right? Again, because of Dumbledore's actions, because of his what he was able to do to prepare Harry for like the trials that were to come, like, you know, everything worked out in the end. Meanwhile, in Lord of the Rings, like, Gandalf just leaves Bilbo alone for 60 years, and it takes a full 77 years for this guy to realize that, like, maybe something's up with Bilbo's magic ring, you know? Like, oh, but Sauron says it's okay, so I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm not going to investigate. I'm not going to take notice of Bilbo's behavior or like just ask any questions. Like nothing is wrong until the forces of Mordor start moving. And then I'm going to start doing my investigating. Then I'm going to spend a full 17 years tracking down a guy that I had already gotten a hold of once, right? I'm gonna enlist the help of Aragorn, son of Arathorn, you know, the greatest tracker in the world to make it happen. I'm gonna lose him, get him again, and then like I'm gonna throw him in like a jail cell guarded by elves who are so incompetent that he immediately just escapes. Right? Like again, and I'm so incompetent that I had no idea any of this was happening. And then I'm gonna pretend that I did know, so Frodo doesn't lose faith in me. Yeah, you know, that's Gandalf, right? You know, it took him a full 17 years to figure out that, like, maybe this magic ring could be the One Ring, right? You know, like, if you think about it, it's really easy to test. All you have to do is just throw it in the fire, and then the inscriptions appear. Like, it's not hard to figure out whether something is the One Ring or not, right? Like, he just assumes it's a lesser ring. Right? Like a dumbass. Especially because considering there aren't that many rings out there. You know, you have like what, 7 for the dwarves, 9 for mortal men, 3 for the elves. Like, okay, but like we know the three elven rings are accounted for. Like, how many magic rings are like just out and about? Like can Sauron not like point to the locations at least? Like, is he again, like Gandalf should have realized something was up. Is my point. Meanwhile, the Chad Dumbledore knows that, like, oh, Voldemort is up to something. Like, right from the get-go, he knows that, like, this guy's a sociopath. He's showing all these, like, terrible tendencies. I'm going to be there for him. I'm going to try and set him on the straight and narrow. I'm going to try to train him up to be a wizard. I'm going to treat him like everyone else. Doesn't work, but he put in the effort, right? He understood there was an issue and did everything he could to stop him from lashing out against society, right? But there was really nothing he could do. Like, Voldemort chose to be who he was, right? He became the Dark Lord and tried to take over and kill a whole bunch of people. Like, and yeah, again, there was really nothing that Dumbledore could do to stop that. And there was no possible way for him to discern, like, how exactly Voldemort survived the backfiring of the Killing Curse, right? He had a general idea that, like, it somehow stripped the soul from his body and it's going around flying, possessing snakes in Albania or whatever, right? He's keeping track of his movements, but he knows, right? Voldemort can't do shit, right? Like, it's it's going to take, like, very specific things to bring him back, and he might never return to power, right? But he does return. He does. And what ends up happening is that, like, Dumbledore, because he didn't sit on his ass like Gandalf did, that Dumbledore, in a matter of years, puts it all together. Harry hands in the diary, right? Dumbledore realizes immediately, like, wait a minute. Something sinister was in these pages. So he immediately starts, like, investigating, like, oh, it must be a Horcrux, but why would he send it out like a weapon? And then, like, it leads him down this, like, ridiculous rabbit hole of, like, tracking Voldemort's movements and learning all of his, like, everything he did over the past several years, like, coming to the conclusion that, like, he must have split his soul into several pieces. And then, like, it's not until, like, Harry brings back, like, Slughorn's memory that, like, he's able to prove it. But, like, he has the theory pretty much figured out, right? Within, like, 4 years, he has, like, the entire insane scheme, like, lined out. He knows who Voldemort killed. He knows, like, when he did it. He's able to outline, like, a general life plan for Voldemort, right? Like, in 4 years, right? Less than 4 years, actually. Meanwhile, Gandalf takes, like, 17 just to find Gollum and then lose him. Like, again, the comparison in competency is insane simply by looking at it from this perspective. Like, Dumbledore was way more on the ball. He was way more capable. He was able to do so much more while Gandalf just exists off of hype. Like, oh, he's the Grey Wizard. Well, what does the Grey Wizard do? Oh, he's part of the council. Well, okay, what does the council do? Like, oh, they're led by Saruman the White, the greatest lore master of the rings. Yeah, okay, sure. Whatever, bro. It's absurd. Like, it's just insane to really just read this again and kind of process, like, what's actually going on and making these kind of comparisons, because yeah, it could not be more obvious to me that Dumbledore is a far greater wizard than Gandalf.